Apple was, I would say, the MBA in terms of customer service to understand how you listen to the customers. But I want to be the Apple of banking.
And also resilience.
That's the keyword.
How do you find this balance, Carlos, when you need to have a great UX and a great security and fraud prevention?
So if you align with risk on the tools that you have, I think you shouldn't have any problem going forward.
How are you doing this evaluation? By projects, by companies, leadership style, by the purpose or innovation? Are you doing any type of filter or?
Yeah, I love that question because I think nobody ever asked me that. And
so I'm very much curious to know how are you finding the current job market in fintech or payment or wherever the industry that you're looking for?
I think for you to be different, it's a lot of research, listen to people that work in the industry that you want it to be, build your network before you need it.
So true.
We have today Carlos Pernia. He has dedicated his career to transforming payments, from leading digital product strategy at Visa to scaling real-time payments at Santander and driving Apple Pay adoption in the US. His journey across top institutions like Amex, Apple, HSBC, and Global Payments gives him a unique perspective on how payments and cards are evolving and where the opportunities lie. Thank you, Carlos.
Welcome, everyone. Welcome to a new episode. Thank you, Carlos, for being here with us. Hello, Vero.
Hi, Jimena. Thank you, Carlos.
No, thank you for having me, and it's a pleasure to meet you both and looking forward to a great conversation.
Nice. Carlos, we're going to start asking you a few questions to understand more what is your current situation, what has been your journey like, where are the different companies that you have been working for. When we decided to contact you in order to you come in one of our episodes, I thought he has the perfect profile, because you have been working for so many and big companies. Like you started with Popular Bank, you have gone to Apple, Amex, Visa, and then the last one was Santander. So it's nice to know how was this journey and what led you to ended up working for those big companies. If you can describe a little bit more the details.
Sure. Again, thank you. And currently, yes, you're right. I'm in a continuous evolving to my next steps in my career, which currently is looking into perhaps directors or VP roles within the payment industry. But if I step back and I talk about my career, it has been more about kind of like a blending in between evolving an intention with what my passion is. So when I started early in my career, started in the banking industry, working for companies such as Citi and even Popular Bank. So there's an idea to that because Citi being my foundation of being a manager trainee, evolving into multiple roles. It reached a point where, and I'm going to reveal dates, but it reached a point back 2014 or so, where cash started to evolve to say people were traveling, say, oh, I need to get cash, in dollars and so forth when I was working in branches. So to me, for some reason, I said, I think the cash eventually will disappear. Back then, that's when I started to do my MBA at the University of Miami. Interesting enough, I decided to make a move working in a big corporation to the smaller side of banking. That was when I joined Popular Bank, where I connected more with the community, understanding more back then where the business, the consumer was all about in terms of needs, what they're looking for, something that has never failed. It's about customers wants always more. So with that said, moving to that particular venue in terms of payments, that's when I decided to join Apple. So Apple was I would say the MBA in terms of customer service to understand how you listen to the customers, right? And customers' needs. It's not about just only listen. It's really to understand what they're looking for using the product that you were provided to. So to me, and that's exactly what happens when Apple Pay was born, those together, the next generation to me where payments is, it's time to evolve from cash. Let's see where we create a new journey. So with that said, I decided moving into the payment side of it. When I joined HSBC, it was mostly about now understanding international bank, what other customers are looking for, and aligned with Apple. It was all about, I'm international. What can I do? How can I manifest my business in the US, but I'm international. And this is where cross-border payments start bouncing around on my head. I said, okay, this is exactly where I want it to be. So moving into, then I work for Global Payments, where understanding the capabilities of cash payments or online payments, or how the customers could get the products faster. And then, you have all these companies and services that provide your services like Amazon, Netflix, and so forth.
Yeah.
Where then that led me to, okay, I think this is the right track, but it led me to, I wanted to go higher than that. So that's when I moved to Amex, and Amex was fantastic experience. That's back then we were in the middle of COVID. It's understanding tradition and being an Amex. The purpose of Amex, it was that tradition, I guess, I repeat about, all right, we're here to protect you. We're here to serve you. We got you. Then the opportunity to join Visa, which was to me very appealing, it came across. Then I decided to join Visa, which particular was about building, within tokenization, value-added services to the region, in this case, LATAM, South America, Central America, the Caribbean. And that's when I became obsessed about payments and value-added services, which then led me to, unfortunately, at the time, there was a contract. Then it moved me to the opportunity with Santander, which was the highlight of my career, because Santander became a entrepreneur on a big organization, working to launch open banking, powered by Santander. So that's kind of the story. It's evolving intentionally with the passion in the middle.
Okay, that's nice. Super nice to see all the journey. You just said it. I mean, you have been working for big companies. What I'm wondering is, make you take such a decision? What make you switch? Okay, I'm an upper. Let's say I'm on the top of the companies. What else I need? And suddenly came or whatever. So
It's, I think,
that you took the decision to move on or to switch companies? What was the main?
well, if I put a roadmap for instance, when I moved from Amex to Visa, Amex was about relocation. At the time, I couldn't relocate, although the opportunity was there, and it just Visa was a coincidence. I'll be honest. Visa was the opportunity to really work in products where the impact was in a bigger scale. So not because I didn't want to leave Amex, but the opportunity to continue evolving in my career. It was one of those things that you either, and then the personal factors that either, I gotta align with my family goals in terms of what they wanted to do, where they were. I do have two kids. One of them is already in college. The other one back then was in middle school. There was many components around to make that decision. I just need to take the approach to, let's just understand the opportunity and go for it. I didn't want to leave Visa at the time. The opportunity to unfold the outcome in 2022 to 2023. There was a very cloud, and it was very uncertain in terms of the opportunities. Unfortunately, the contract ended, and that's how Santander came across. With Santander, issue with it was just the reorganization, where they need to move the players around. And being an international organization, I understood, and that's where I am now. So it's intentionally, but was most about following my passion, I would say.
Understand. Later on, I'm going to ask you more about open banking, your point of view, because there's a hot topic going on open banking and JP Morgan, so I would like to know also your point of view.
Sure.
But tell us, coming back about your journey, most of the companies are American, except Santander. That's very, very Spanish culture. I think Santander has the capability to adapt to the culture, to the local culture where it goes. But as we were talking in one of the previous episodes with Raul Cruces, so the culture of Santander is very aggressive, very greedy, let's say. So it will be nice to know how you adapt just through those different companies and its culture, no? So how do you?
That's a great question, because I don't want to say in terms of aggressive, or terms. I think they're very ambitious of what Anna Botín wanted to do, and I think it's the right way to approach banking these days. The way how I translate banking, it's old fashioned. We can obviously respectfully to the industry and my peers. I think it's more about, because you have many CEOs at the top management is thinking about the old ways, very traditional. And I think what's happened nowadays is, all right, we are in a point in the space where customers are demanding more and faster responses and so forth. Santander, and I think that I applaud Anna Botín to doing this approach is, I want to, and she quoted one of the meetings, and I love that quote. It's about, I want to be the Apple of banking. And with that approach, per se, You have a bank that has many international team members.
Yeah.
And one of the aspects of, most of us working at Santander are mostly bicultural. I was born in Venezuela, and, most of the people I work with were in different countries. And then you have the main component of Spain. So the first thing when you work in an environment like that, it's just blend those two cultures, because everybody has a different way to see their approach to work. So it's about finding that common ground to say, okay, if what's in it for you, let me support what your journey is all about. That way, I think building those kind of like partnership with other stockholders within any organization is a succeed of the common goals in a big bank like that. I'm not going to tell you it's easy, because everybody has the point of view when you have process in place coming from other countries. Although we're in the same company, but the process that you have, individually speaking, in another country is totally different than the ones in the US. So, and then that's where the culture piece comes. So with that, yeah, it's aggressive in a sense that we have to stay on top of the game for you to be able to interact with teams members in the US and be able to take that to the Spain team. It's not easy at times, because it might come across aggressive, as you mentioned, but the bottom line is, we have to a mission to accomplish, right? So that's where finding that common ground for both sides of the equation, be able to kind of get you going in that work. It takes some challenges to get to that point, and a lot of meetings to do that. So.
And also resilience, no?
That's that. Yeah, that's the key word. I think resilience is about not taking personally and be resilient to, okay, next day, let's just leave that in the past and move forward. I have meetings where it could escalate the tone, and we definitely have to, step back. Next day, I said, look, this was not personal. Let's just move on. Let's take our feelings aside, because at the end of the day, in the tone by Anna was about very passionate about what we want to build. And that translates through the entire organization. So, you're controlling those feelings and emotions sometimes comes hard.
And we Latinos, we tend not to.
We can relate to that. We can relate to that.
So
we can
everything with a lot of passion, but that's why I mentioned resilience. Obviously, you have to forget about what is your background, your feelings, what I will say in this, but then you need to be
100% sure, like 100%. And then if you add to that, I personally, I play soccer, still playing, and I'm very competitive. So when it comes down to that, it comes natural out of you being competitive for your own role. And not to mention, then you have your own personal goals. That you want to be in the high level of the company. You want to ensure that you protect your space, protect your profession, your role at the company, to ensure that, and then you become an expert. So that's how you start building those nuances in terms of that resilience, showing to the rest, I'm here to stay, and in terms to perform well.
Definitely.
Okay. So, Carlos, talk about challenges. What was the biggest professional challenge you faced in payments? Nothing that you remember.
I'll tell you, in payments, I think the challenge is how we evolve in the industry so rapidly every day. I think, like I mentioned when we open up the conversation, I think particular this year has been fascinating how fast things are evolving in payments. There's many people that start answering questions in terms of, one of the things that you find around, it's two things. People will find the issues and the problems, and also at the same time, people will say, this is the solution. What you don't hear often is the execution. So because all these tools are coming so rapidly, and I'm going to make a post to that is, when we go back to COVID, right? Pre-COVID time, you travel from Switzerland to US, you're going on your vacation, you take your credit card, maybe you call your bank, let them know that hey, I'm going to travel, I'm going to have some expenditures in another country, your bank plays a note. That doesn't happen these days, right? And then that's pre-COVID, the contactless, it was not even used. Many of you didn't care. You just go to the shop or the coffee at the restaurant, you use your credit card, people touch your credit card. The shit with COVID is now all of a sudden our mindset will change so rapidly that, rightly so, right? With not touching base on what COVID was, but the impact in the industry was so huge. Back then, we will project in 5-7 years where COVID, we're going to start talking about contactless in 7 years, 5 years. And that's a long time. COVID time came in, And all of a sudden, many companies were not ready for that. So, and it's kind of like, I compare that to what we're going through today. Many companies are not prepared to have an agent. All of a sudden, you're talking to a computer, and you don't know that.
Yeah.
And that's when we come with AI and agents and so forth. So with that said, the impact on COVID changed the entire environment for payments. So with that said, all of a sudden the wallets, contactless and payments, B2B started to change in a shift where the customer was a wake up call. Said, okay, if I have access to this so quickly, what can you offer me as an organization? So with that said, that was the biggest challenge, to adapt to those changes. We kind of like keep up and catch up after COVID. And all of a sudden for the last 12 months, we're facing this new addition of tools that it's even faster than COVID. So you add those two together. We're in a times where the customers are demanding rapid response, protection, security, the loyalty on customers for your service. You really have to be impeccable on your service for you to really be able to keep that customer, because loyalty, it's something that it's hard to keep these days because of all the tools that you have and other companies are taking advantage. But more personally, if I were to say, the biggest challenge was to build a digital bank under Santander. I think we touched bases on this a bit ago. Having over 150 people working in one digital bank, you mentioned culturally, to teams working at different time zone, because it was not only Spain, there was other collaboration. And on top of it, you have to protect your brand, working with teams in South America and the call center, and ensure that they keep the quality that you want. And as a product manager, I want to elevate. That's one thing that it's all about, the way I see my career. It's elevating and raising the bar, that we can always do better, no matter what. Even if we're doing great, there is always room for you to do better. So the learning curve nowadays, even for us being in the seasoned professionals, you never stop learning, from the point of view that tools are coming your way, that you have to adapt and be able to be flexible to say, okay, I have this AI tool. What can I do with it? And we're going to touch bases later on that. But the challenge to build a bank from the get-go was say, okay, we want to build this bank within 18 months. It was humongous. It was huge. And especially in payments, because we have to really keep up with the demand of the demographics that we want to touch. We wanted to keep up with the, launch a digital bank in the US where you don't have presence in, let's say, Kansas City doesn't have a branch of Santander. How can people open an account in Santander, in Kansas City or the West Coast, and be able to maintain the great brand that we have, and two, be able to respond to that digital demand that the customers have these days. So I'm building that product with vendors and software was the biggest challenge. And if I go more in particular, I think once we opened that and we launched that, the biggest challenge was working with the unknown on your product and the reception for your customers, right? So immediately we realized the customer was telling us, oh, you have a great savings, but I want to deposit more money and you're not allowing me to. So within 30 days, we have to come up with an idea. Okay, the customer wants to bring more money. How can we do this? So I have to go out to the market, analyze with other different competition, and in terms to understand, okay, there's not enough information. Do we risk to elevate our deposit limits, or do we not? Do we trust the models? So we were able to work, and again, I always said to find that common ground with risk, marketing, and the service team. Be able to, okay, we find the common ground, and legal, of course, to be able to bring the deposit higher, the deposit limits higher, and that allows to bring the $2 billion in deposit within 3 months. It's a lot of working pieces in terms that, if I go back to our conversation, leading with empathy, leading with, being a servant leader in terms, okay, I know your agenda is huge, but what if we come on, tell me what you need from me to help you. Once that's my philosophy, is always understanding what's on your table versus my own agenda. That led me to be able to present what I need, and successfully we were able to launch that. But it was a lot of running to it.
Wow. And you know that this industry is growing so fast, Carlos, and we can say that there are two phases. We are always talking in payment about pre-COVID and after COVID, because everything changed with the COVID. No?
Yeah.
And on this industry, because, for example, from a customer point of view, as we talked before, customers, now there are too many payment technologies, too many options to pay. Has been this experience? How this experience teach to you about consumers? Because there is an adaptation about consumers as well.
I think you mentioned, and it touched bases what Jimena was saying earlier, that fortunately enough, we have to mention it. It's about open banking, right? I think the open banking in the industry has bring us the opportunity to fintech speed an ally versus an enemy. A lot of leaders still see fintech as an enemy. I see them with the tools and the rapid response that they have, especially being a smaller company, to bring us a solution for that demand on those customers. It's huge. So if you don't work your battles in a way to find allies and rather find, I think you're behind the ballpark. So with that said, the way I see it, I think customers, as I said, customers want more. Customers want quick responses, especially when it comes down to money. If you talk about B2B, if you talk about C2C, customers, like if you're in Spain, I need to send money to my kiddo that is in school. I can't wait a week to receive money if I send money today. Or you're working in Switzerland and also you have to pay your employees. They cannot wait 2 weeks to get the money, right? When it comes down to pay. So finding allies to help you to expedite and protect your branding, it's huge in this market. You mentioned COVID. I think I broke it down into post-COVID life, and now I'm going to broke it down into post-AI life. I think we have COVID behind us. That's the foundation, what payments understood, many companies understood. I have to react very quickly and provide a great service. I think that's behind us. You reacted, you provided service. Now what else is there for? Like travel? It's a huge element right now, because if you're gonna book your ticket, go to any website that you want. Nowadays, you find tools that be able to build your travel just for you to tell them the destination that you want. And this is all based on data and so forth. For payments, it comes to a position where you have to be quick, you have to be secure, you have to be risk mindful, you have to be customer service at the front of everything that you talk about it. And it's interesting because that's something that I learned at Apple. It's about listening to kind of, you work backwards from the customer backwards. So you build from what the customer is telling you backwards. So that's the reason why I think Apple, when they say, they have products for to make sure that they do base or dreamers to become doers, right? So that's the position. Say, I have this product for you. You're dreaming about this product. I'm going to make you do it and be able to, for you to accomplish. So now you have, Apple Pay and so forth. I think I'm going that way a little bit of the question, but I think related to payments, it's all about that quick response that on the service that that company needs to provide in payments. I think this year marks the next level. It's not going to take for you to think 5 years. It's about what can you do in the next 12 months or less.
Yeah. We cannot talk about years of this industry.
Yeah.
Never. Talking about
Not
Alex
at all.
Carlos, Santander to help to drive 2 billions in new deposits in 90 days. Oh, that's amazing. What was the secret? Which tips you can provide to us?
I think one of them is already is the resilience, right? I think having the right team in place. A payments team could say then we had a great team of experts together and understand. And when I said expert teams, that it's aware of how talking about the industry, it's aware about the tools and the challenges that present it. So once you understand that and what the customer wants, I think the idea for us was to structure from the business perspective, kind of like a calendar in a way. This is the roadmap. This is what I want to accomplish. This is the vision, the roadmap. This is what we need to accomplish every month. This is the weekly of what we need to accomplish. And I think staying on top of that, it's how you become resilient in terms to accomplish your goals, right? Typically, the secret was just every week ensure that we stay on top of the game. If the product owners were doing their part, are you missing the ball? So it's really for you to understand the product that you have in hand and be ahead of the game. It's like I apply this at soccer. An old soccer coach told me, it's like you have three options. I'm like, what do you mean by that? And I was very young at the time. It says, look, either your teammate, your goal is just to score goals and win the games. Three things happens. Either your teammate pass the ball, you get the ball. The teammate pass the ball and somebody else get the ball. What are you gonna do about it? And then your teammate lose the ball. What are you gonna do about it? So when I apply that mentality, it's the same concept. If one of my teammates isn't doing the part, I'm going to go ahead and say, tell me what's going on. Let's analyze the root of cause. Are you overwhelmed? You have a lot of work or not? Can you do the work? You need support. If he's doing this job and he's ahead, that allows me to be ahead of the game. Okay, look, can we move this? And if not, when I see the vision of my bosses in terms, what can we do to add this addition? Because I tell you a secret. Then the previous to launch the open bank, we have a a name change within. So all of a sudden, the product that we were going to launch is a change 6 months before launch. And if you're going to change a product name within 6 months, is a huge challenge because why? You have legal, marketing, communication, emails, or risk and branding, everything that
Too many
requires that blocks that it could really ruin your launch expectation. And obviously we have to go in October. There's no question asked. So that goes back to anticipate what's next at you. So we immediately have to put teams together and say, we're going to break it down in teams, whether it is your onboarding teams, servicing. We're going to have to work extra to ensure that weekly or daily, we're ahead of the game. So that was a huge challenge when they decided to change the name. Like, okay. And the challenge is that you challenge yourself to the unknown because when you work to a company, you get into a company in payments and you look at product is, let's say, click to pay. The product itself is already there. But let's say they decided to change click to pay to point to pay. Let's just give it an example. You're like, okay, this has no precedence. What do we do? Do they stay frozen? Do they ask my money? And the interesting thing is, at this stage of your life, it's expected for you to perform. There's no questions asked. So this is what the fun part is. Okay, this is where you step back and say, okay, why can I do this? And I tell you, I'm going to attach that to nowadays, I think people who find that challenges within the job scope, it's easier because now you can use AI tools that could help you to get there very quick. So all those nuances that you take you for like product owners, how can I structure this? Only with a click of an idea, you can reshape that and say, I can get this, that done, and so forth, as long as that human eye looking at it. So yeah, those are the secrets to it, to be honest.
Nice. Also, I think that you say something very important, Carlos, stakeholders management, right? I think this is something key. It's a skill that is a must for nowadays product management. As a product manager, you need to regulate expectations, also to reach the expectation that each of your stakeholders want. So this is a key skill. Continue with the future of payments. You mentioned also AI and all the cards, that before COVID, we were so used to pay with credit cards. How do you see? I don't want to say a number of years because, as you mentioned, in months, something can change as well.
Yeah.
How do you see also with this agentic commerce that Visa and MasterCard are already working on it? How do you see how it's going to be evolving?
I think, in the past, I dare to say, because in the past we will say, 5 years from now, 3 years from now.
Exactly.
And I think, the mark of years, I think it still exists for you to kind of build yourself a roadmap. I think the credit cards, plastic per se, are not gone. But they're going to evolve, right? When I think the card becoming tokenized, right? That's an example of, be able for you to tokenize your information as more protected. Now the cloud credentials that live in wallets you have in apps, now coming up in agents, or there's already in action. The form factor fades, the form being the plastic, the dispute rise, the risk models, the density remain, uncertain, but it's there. So with that said, I think the cars are not going to disappear yet, because I think they're evolving in terms of, I think, biometric is going to be there, be able to, still, I mean, actually if you have an iPhone, you're able to approve with biometrics. It takes a little bit of time to do that, especially that you have regions still that will be still using cars no matter what, right?
And
yeah, exactly. So to me, car was still there because, unfortunately, not every technology doesn't advance equally on every part of the world. So you have Europe sometimes with advancing more than the US, and sometimes the South American, even with I remember the cheap car in your car. Latin America has some countries that they were already advanced, even advanced than the US. And to me, that's not gonna disappear, but mostly about evolving on the way how can you work with it, to be honest. So I think that's the trend that, on my opinion, will go there.
And you mentioned also, Carlos, that you were leading the project on Santander about open banking. So how would you say that is the real impact in real-time payments in open banking compared to traditional cards, for example?
I mean, that's something I'm fascinated about. That I'm becoming an expert every day because it's so much happening at the currently, right?
Yeah.
So I think the real time payments and open banking, kind of like even against the car rails. It's not either or it's kind of like use case orchestration because it's, again, going back to the region that we talk about, RTP, open banking essentially is going to win the paid out and in terms of bill pay and account funding, no question about it. The car's going to continue dominating credit, travel, subscriptions, and even global acceptance as we touched. To me, what it comes down to, it's, as I call it, the battleground. It's the value added services on top of all this, right? Identity, fraud, dispute, the data, and even financing, right? So now you can break down your payments. All this combination of this buffet of options that you have, it's going to be depending on your customer demographics. Like I said, real-time payments. You're in Spain. I need to pay you for a service. You're not waiting for me to get paid on the 15 or 30s. It's just payment upon service. I need to find a service that provide you with the peace of mind you're going to get the money. And this is where open banking, it's huge for many traditional banks.
Yeah.
It's going to allow you to bring the value added service that you're going to provide to your customers. And yes, not every product will fit you on your box, right? So you really have to go back and audit your services that you provide and say, oh, this is old, this is new, this is what my customers are demanding. What can I add to my service to ensure that I'm meeting the real time's demands? Am I using the open banking? So that's where the card rails is going to still there. And I think the other two components of real time payments and open banking is huge. And not to mention, I think if you think about it from the generation standpoint, what's coming behind us, demanding real time solutions. So that's where the battleground to me is all these companies providing services. How do you add the value for my next generation in payments? And that means the students and the people that are even in high school today, because they're not looking to go to their branch and get a check. So that's something that companies need to look beyond their services.
And Carlos, this question is out of the box. Because since we're talking about open banking, what are your thoughts or your opinion about JP Morgan charging for the APIs? And even Visa found their big team in USA for open banking. So how do you see it?
It could be a coffee debate, right? Or sometimes even to have a alcohol debate because this could escalate many ways.
I think correct, Carlos, please.
I'm sorry. This is family oriented. My bad. I apologize. On a serious note, I think companies are in business, right? Companies are in here to do business, and I think if the game is fair, I should not see any problem to charge that because there's a customer demand. The companies need to be mindful about the pricing that you're going to do. If you are a farmer, your budget is very tight. And I use farmer because they work hard every day, not in particular. But let's say all of a sudden you increment the service fee, that puts you in jeopardy that you're going to charge your prices and so forth, right? It's okay to me as long as it's mindful when having the customer in mind, because business has a price for you to serve, right? So not everything could be free, unfortunately. And that's how the reality is nowadays. And the next question was,
no, what is your opinion about that?
And I think, they closed down the US. I think that's our operational decision. Again, I've seen it today. I'm probably going to touch bases in a little bit. The hiring in companies is evolving. Business this year, again, we're talking about payments evolution. This year has been huge. Stablecoin, open banking, huge word, real-time payments. Companies all of a sudden like, okay, am I spending the right money on the right place? And that's unfortunately the reality of business.
Just from my point of view, there was not a cost that was expected. When you go for open banking, the word itself is saying it's open banking, and I think that was the main objective of open banking. Then you're giving the power to your customers to have their own data, what to do, in which moment or which companies they want to share with. So the fact that JP Morgan decided to charge, because obviously they have a big infrastructure behind, the APIs cost money and so on. Still, it's a little bit unfair for the other players in the game.
Yeah, and I'm gonna be politically correct. Whether to me it's right, it's not, because I think you have the infrastructure for you to be able to not to charge and get the fees that you want somewhere else. It's like when all of a sudden you have a park that's free that everybody goes there to use it for biking, exercise, and all of a sudden the park decided or the city decided to charge $5 to get in. And that's actually an example happened here in Miami. You're like, what are you charging me after a year? Because you need your budget is not giving you what you need somewhere else. No, work on your budget and don't penalize everybody else, right? Exactly. So I agree with you. it shouldn't be a charge because that's a key work of open banking. Find other ways for you to provide your revenue in another line of business. So that's my political, I'll be frank.
You were just talking about open banking. One of the features of open banking itself is also security, this protection to customers, and also when we speak about fraud prevention. So I think it's always like we have been there, like when you decide of fraud or risk or legal to you and say, you need to make your product more secure. You need to add more authentications, like a third factor. How do you find this balance, Carlos, when you need to have a great UX and a great security and fraud prevention?
I think from the business perspective, I think that I when I was reading the pre-meeting, I like, you know what? I think we're in the perfect time, and I'm gonna go back to what's happening nowadays. All these tools that we're getting, the opportunity to have access to, it's beneficial to all of us. Now you can build tools where tell you how to predict different fraud, even in customers' behaviors. They will be able to detect something that was not detected on a human eye, if the customer it's gearing towards a fraud issue or not. And I think business needs to understand, are we taking advantage of these tools? Okay, Reese is telling me I need to be more secure. So the first step I will do is just step with the vendor and say, look, we need more security based on the following parameters. No questions asked. For many, from the business standpoint, sometimes we don't like it, but it's necessary, right? To ensure, at the end of the day, if you protect your front end, your losses are going to be less, and therefore the revenue is going to be higher. So that's the goal for risk, right? Again, I always come back to, I'll give you an example. When I raised the limits for deposit, Risk was asking me, okay, do we have data that telling us if we risk to 250,000 that we're potentially exposing? And I said, no, we couldn't find any data. However, I'm going based to the old data that we have and customer behaviors using the product. So the risk has been on the model that you use. Fantastic. The loss has been minimal. It's risk because it's a higher limit. Yes. But the model that applying the right model has told me in the last few years that the loss has been minimal. In the market, yes, there potentially more exposure with this product if we increase the limit. Yes. As of yet, I haven't seen in my research any issue with the product. So I think if we implement the risk on the model, increasing the deposit limit, it should be okay. Not at 500,000, which originally, obviously, we tried to push the needle, and they told me no. What if we go back down to 250? And I did that purpose, kind of like the basis of a negotiation: go high first, and then in the middle, what can you live with it? A type of like a BATNA type of thing. But understanding that, the risk told me, okay, what if we added an extra layer of security on those deposits? And I'm fine with that. So if you align with risk on the tools that you have, I think you shouldn't have any problem going forward, because I think you have the tools to be able to predict that. And I think many people will disagree in the way how I approach this as a product manager. But I think the alliance to build with other team members, understanding that your agenda has a priority, but if you align with what they need to do, I think you're able to do it. But risk is definitely something that you cannot disregard. It has to be on the front page of your book, regardless, and no matter how much we don't like it from the business perspective, because they're always going to push back. Understandably, that's their job. But I think, and then open banking is something, as we touched bases earlier, it's unseen, it's new. It's not that all in the market to understand, like, oh, the credit card, like it has been years, and so kind of, oh, it's a fraud. You dispute it. Now open banking is something new that is coming very rapidly. Okay, what do we do to protect our exposure on this? So that's how I see it.
Okay. And the usage of AI obviously is gonna help, as you mentioned, something that was not visible for the human eyes. With AI, obviously, is something that
there are already models that are predicting. It's amazing. I think how based on your behavior on your credit card or your spending money, something out of ordinary predicting whether it's going to be a fraud or not. Our models already, and that's a great tool. I think, especially with the teams that are working customer service on those front end customer service, that allow them to really predict that and be able to be in the first front party to understand. Okay, we have a project, a possible issue, and then we can attack earlier than later. When it comes down to that.
Thank you, Carlos. Let's talk more about you, more personally. So after such a dynamic career, What are you looking for now in your next opportunity? What is the next for you? What are you looking?
I think I mean I continue to be passionate about payments, and payment to me, I think if you're in payments these days, regardless of the line of business, it's being in the PhD of your career. Even at this point on my mid year or mid stage of my career, I think what I look is just on the director level, VP level, and a company where the vision is about finding solutions to make a bigger impact. Right? With that said, there are so much happening in payments. I think, as I mentioned earlier, companies are making this shift of, okay, I got all this coming at me. What can I do? Do I need to shift, working my resources that I have, my human resources? Do I need to cut heads or not? So to me personally, what I'm looking for is be able to find a home where I can use all this expertise for the bigger impact, to be honest. And it has to be where it comes in our culture, a place where it has multicultural, of course. And I say, of course, I grew up with it. I grew up with people from many places in the world. And I tell you, lately within this journey, and this is a personal story, so in one of the posts I did about open banking, I got someone connecting me from Nigeria.
Wow.
I'm like, why am I connected with someone in Nigeria? And it happens to be someone an expertise on payments on that side of the world. The point with that is there is no closed doors anymore. Like if you give an example today, the three of us in the three different regions, imagine when you finish this conversation, each of the countries that you are, like you interact with coffee and so forth, they could talk about what happened today. It's amazing to be in a place that multicultures, you're able to share all these experiences. To me, that's what I'm looking for. And continue adding an impact on value added position services. I think to me, finding a solution, able to find the problem, most importantly, the execution, it's where I want it to be.
And you have a lot of experience, Carlos, in different companies or traditional companies like Santander, as we said, or other type of companies like Amex or like Apple. How are you doing this evaluation? By projects, by companies, leadership style, by the purpose or innovation? Are you doing any type of filter or?
Yeah, I love that question. I think nobody ever asked me that, and I think the way how I evaluate, and that goes back to when you audit it yourself in your career. If I kind of like simplify it, right? When I think about Apple, craftsmanship and secrecy and dreamers become doers. So it's about supporting your idea. If it works, let's go with it. In Amex, it's all about relationship, precision, and tradition. And it's a culture very, very senior, very prestige. It's about the brand. So Amex, it's an interesting place when it comes down to that because the needle doesn't move as fast if you want to make change. Visa, on the other hand, you have someone who's try to make pushing the needle a little bit faster based on the tools that they have. So I simplify them as a scale plus security. So Visas is always an interesting play because of the tools that they have with everything happening in payments. It's a great place to. And Santander, it's the way how I actually defined them was entrepreneur inside a bank, basically with a global presence, right? And that happens very similar to HSBC when I worked back then with them. It has a very similar culture where the Spain culture domains the US no matter what. Ideally, I think, for those who are from Spain and people who doesn't really understand cultures, they have a hard time trying to understand the way how, from the professional standpoint, people from Spain think versus someone from the US. We are very driven by results. In Spain, it's about driven by results, but taking very cautious steps, right? And then if I go to global payments, it's about resilience and don't give up and take no for an answer. Right? Don't take a no for an answer. And then HSBC is very similar to it. Among all those cultures, I think I blended to a place where I can find a culture where it allows me to provide solutions and execute them in a way where it impacts the customers at the bottom line and globally speaking. So that's kind of like the way I resume it.
And it's very positive that in both cases you have been working in LATAM and US. So at the end, this is very positive for you that you can change your culture as well and you have experience in both markets.
Yeah, as we said, I mean, podemos hablar español, and all of a sudden we jump to English. Right? It's all of a sudden that it happens to us in starting the call. We go from Spanish to English, and it's just culture speaking. I think people who are bilingual, it doesn't matter Spanish. I think to me it's very fun because all of a sudden, plus you're working in your other language, and like, oh, sorry, just continue talking. And I think we get to impact people or around us that are not bilingual when they see that you try to, kind of like send your message, and all of a sudden either a Spanish word or other word come across, and they actually align with you because they understand the idea that you're saying. So that to me, I think is super fun when you have someone from another country. And then that's the other aspect. When you have someone from another country that you learn so much about the culture and how they think. And if you look at it from the professional standpoint, think understanding cultures, how they work, it's fascinating. The people working in the Caribbean, I mean, if you want to work in the Caribbean with customers in the Caribbean, you really have to be patient. And you have to understand they have their own clock, no matter whether we like it or not. You could be the most perfect person to show their great agenda. Doesn't matter. You adapt to their agenda. It's interesting because you ended up adapting to agenda and loving it. Right? But then you go to LATAM, like South America, they are very driven about their experience. They're very driven about the experience and the prestige that experience brings. So if we talk about the US, which I think that was one of the items that we touched bases on the pre-call, it's about security, risk, and safety. And then you go to Central America, it's catching up with technology, it's catching up with, with the journey between security. So it's very interesting to interact with all these multicultural. And then Europe it's in a race to be, ahead of the American side of the world. So to me, it's fascinating to see that and be able to understand someone. And I say Europe because it's so big now, especially in this journey for the last 6 months. I have met people from Italy, from Netherlands, from Germany, and it's fascinating because someone from when was it? Someone is based out of London, but she is not from London. She's from, I think, Netherlands, and she sent me a message in a different language. I'm like, I have no idea what you were telling me. And she goes, no, I just wanted to connect with you. And okay, perfect. I thought you were saying something else. But what's interesting about it is to reinforces for you when you find as your question, right? You're starting to understand customers worldwide. And when you acquire that knowledge, it becomes easier for you to deliver your solutions on anything that you're doing, whether it's product, whether it's risk, because you understand, you kind of start reading the customers ahead of the game. And that goes back to what I told you about my example. I try to be ahead to understand what they're looking for. Because as I said, many people say, oh, I found the problem, I found the solution, but the execution itself, it's about to really read what's next for the customers. They know they have a problem. They know there's a solution. But are you able to read what's ahead of them to understand that you can present? If I tell you need this, would you be able to understand it that you need it? And in most cases, that's the fun part. And that's what a culture learning help you to do that. I could learn for someone from Argentina, for instance, or for someone from, I was born in Venezuela. Someone from Venezuela is totally different than the South Cone in South America. With South America, Argentina, those, you're right, it's about the rewards versus the other ones in Venezuela, Colombia. It's about driven results. So second, and then Brazil, Brazil is one of the countries ahead of many games in terms of providing solution for customers in payments. So that culture is shifted everywhere. It teaches you more than what people think.
And Carlos, you were saying that you are looking for new opportunities. So I'm very much curious to know how are you finding the current job market in fintech or payment or wherever the industry that you're looking for?
I think if one of the first sentence will be, it's selective and uneven. Leadership roles are moving, they're shifting, as I said, as we talked earlier, but there are tighter scorecards needed. I think there are longer loops for you in conversations to get to the roles. And the priority, I think it's more about efficiency and the revenue that you can bring to the table. So the job market has shifted from years up to now, that when we talk about earlier in the call, I think it's not even now who you know, because even who you know, it could tell you many pointers, you
Yeah.
use them. Okay, how can I apply that? I think for you to be different, it's a lot of research, listen to people that work in the industry that you want it to be. That's what I'm doing now. I'm meeting with many people in the industry and many people that have suffered from job losses have told me that I learned something new from them. And I could give you an example to someone from Visa who's been there for 17 years. And it was a very strong background. Excuse me. And all of a sudden, in 2 months, she goes back and provides a job. I'm like, oh, so I connected with her. How did you get to that quick? Because 2 months is for someone with enough experience in the market. 2 months is relatively quick these days, especially in 2025. And she goes, wasn't looking for this job, wasn't even posted. It was an old acquaintances that show that look at my profile, some of the postings I've been doing, and reach out to me, and we connected, and all of a sudden I'm here. So if we talk about other strategies, I think it being more present, engaged to people that are curious about your expertise, people that you can, and even ask yourself to other people, how's your career go? Rather than just say, I want a job. I saw this job posted. Can you help me and refer me? I think that strategy is no longer the case. It's more about understanding what your career progression is, seeing what you're doing, and learn. There's a lot of tools out there, as I said, that are incredibly useful. And if you think about it, for you even to use it personally, it's been a great journey because I learned the tools that I have no idea that existed before. And that goes aligned to what's happening in payments, right? Like we talk about COVID, post-COVID was about wallet, don't touch the credit card processing, the equipment and so forth. Now, to me, it's about digital journey, quick money, access to the money. So it's about really learning, understanding, searching careers policies that really align with me. Because I could tell you right now, I have an experience, have a conversation with someone, told me, look, Carlos, for each job, there are over 6, 7, 800 people applying for one role, right? And that's the average. When you talk to a recruiter, so recruiters are having a tough time, in my opinion, because no one, doesn't matter how great you are, it's impossible for you to go through 800 people resumes. So then you have tools that help you out with, the famous ATS. That's where we talk about optimizing your LinkedIn and so forth. And so to me, I think for them to us, look, we struggle because we try to set up with the hiring manager what they're looking for and so forth. And it's a lot of work that needs to be done. So in this side of the spectrum is about connecting, understanding what they're looking for, even with recruiters. So tell me more about what you're looking for. Because I think that's something that we're missing. It's listening a lot and connecting those dots for you to be able to get somewhere. I think that's where I'm at nowadays. A lot of searching. I'm doing a lot of sharing of my knowledge in terms of what I do through LinkedIn. I love it and that's going back to what I was telling you earlier, connecting with people around the world that I never thought about to connect with. And essentially, I think you're building your network with intention and purpose versus just building a network. Yeah. Versus building your network with just accept. And I could tell you that from my network, for the number of people I have, if anything, will be 50 people out of I don't even know at this point how many I have, that I have not responded with a message or asked for something. And it's probably acquaintances that are they're local, right? So with that said, most of the people I connect with, it's with intention to know who you are, what you've done, because you never know. And especially nowadays, when I say nowadays, is because everything is evolving so fast, what that could lead you to, and goes back to being global, right? Or in different parts of the world right now, we're connecting about common things that are happening. So that's how I see it in terms of my strategy.
And Carlos, as you mentioned, there are a lot of people, like 600, 800 people sometimes applying for the same job. Recruiters that don't have the time, so they're using these ATS in order to filter. Sometimes you feel like you have the perfect requirements and you match all of them. You have all the skills, and later you have this automatic rejection email. I know how frustrating it is.
That's brutal.
How are you managing? How are you managing with the frustration? Since when are you looking for a job? It's how long?
Santander it ended up in March. So I think it's a couple of things that I do. I think at first your ego goes first. Oh, I could find a job very quick. That's no longer the place. I think you need to get rid of your ego very quick and understand that things are different. Secondly, I would say that be findable in a sense where be someone that you could be a reference. Right? Somebody look at you, oh, I could reference Carlos for this expertise and be published about it. You have to be up there to get people to know you and see you. Unfortunately, if you're someone that wants to be, and it happens, there are cases that they get referred into, not being that public and stuff like. But I think LinkedIn, it's a great tool for you to be up there and people to see your job. I said earlier that people are sometimes sick when we do it networking. I think I notice there's some secretly way to not share much about what I do to protect my job. At the end of the day, I get it. Your job pays your bills. I think if you have an intention for you to get a better job, one of my strategies, if I don't share what I do, I'm never going to, part of my strategy, I'm not going to be able to people to find me, right? With that said, I share all my cards. I'm very transparent and open to have people look at me. Look, this is me. This is who I am. This is what I provide. So to your question, I always ask for sponsorship. Can you refer me? Can you support me in this job? Not just referrals, sponsorship with a purpose. And then tracking with warm intros, in case studies, and even can we make a call within 10 minutes and so you get to know who I am and show when that conversation has to be meaningful because yes, you're networking, but you also need to kind of like sell yourself in a way where like, this is my business card. Now you have to be meaningful and it doesn't have to be an essay. Just be about, okay, look, I provide, my goals has been this, or I have done this. And then get to know the other side of the table because they're taking their time to know you. So back to you, get to know what they do. And if they align with your career vision, that's when you strategically start talking to them. And that has brought me great success to obtain at least referrals in a sense. Be open to feedback. You gotta be super open to feedback. And that goes back down to drop your ego, be open to feedback to say, maybe you're having some deficiency A, B, C, or so forth. And then at the end, most importantly is you're going to build your thick skin. Be open to say, I'm going to receive a lot of no's and don't take those no's personally and try to move on. And those are hard, especially if you get to have an opportunity. You go through a 1, 2, or third interview process, and all of a sudden you get a no. That hurts because you thought you were going well. So you need to really build a ways where on your mindset, they didn't get it. It's not for me. Got to move on. Otherwise, you're really going to fall psychological, mentally, you're going to be hurt because you're going to struggle a lot because there's a lot of stuff happening in your life in terms of behind doors. And it's a emotional roller coaster, right? So you really have to find ways for you to decompress and ensure that no become more a motivation for you to continue and keep looking and be resilient about the finding. Essentially, something got to happen. And that's the hope because I say, yeah, we're an evolving year and you see that many companies later now, letting people go. And I think with that so much talent in the industry, there's also companies in need of that talent, especially it doesn't have to be the mayors all the time. I tell you, I found different small fintechs that they're looking for good talent in need for resolve some of the infrastructure that they need to offer on the customer, especially in payments.
And last question from my side, what would you advise to young professionals in the payment industry?
I'll tell you, you got to show yourself as being something real. You learn compliance early, pick a niche. I mean, payment industry is so huge that you can get lost. Whether it's risk, whether it's issuing, whether it's RTP, identity, wallet, cross borders, you got to zoom out what you want to do. That would be my advice. And then second thing, build your network before you need it.
So true.
Build your network before you need it. And within that, build your metrics of your business card. What are your goals? What are you going to measure? What are you looking for? It doesn't have to be complicated. It's very simple to say, my business card, I want to accomplish this. Once you find your niche, find the network that's right about it. Because I could see of the youngers, they try to accept everybody in the whole model and you, all of a sudden you have a network of people that it's not in the industry. And the typical error that most people made is, oh, let me connect with people at my level, my friends, acquaintances that are the same as smart as me. And my advice will be no, that's the mistake. You gotta start from the CEO.
Yeah.
Even if the CEO executive and CEO will have 10,000 people, doesn't matter. So you start building from up down, because those are the decision makers that you need to connect with and show your business part. So that would be my advice. Rather just go all crazy and start sending invitations, because a lot of people are accepted. And people do it for, have this amount of people and so forth. I think nowadays what I learned, build your network with intention, that at some point, sooner or later, I mean, look, I have people that I sent invites in 2018. They never accepted. And I have people now accepting it after 6 years.
Yeah.
That's crazy. And I know this because I got an example from someone from MasterCard.
Yeah.
I'm like, oh my gosh, who is this guy? The LinkedIn allows you to see if you send a note. And I look at the date 2018. I'm like, why are you connected with me now? And I love it just because if I step back and look at I look back and look, okay, let me see why this person is accepting me. Why, as I told you earlier, and showing up for, sharing my knowledge, sharing comments about documents, about people making posts. And that's something that I think that's part of my strategy also. In comments in as much value from my expertise to people's comments. So when I do that, it's just more about someone talking about cross borders. I share my opinion about cross borders, just to ensure, look, you can count on me if you need any advice or anything, as long as within my knowledge of the topic.
It's true.
Thank you so much, Carlos, to share your experience with us today.
My pleasure.
To analyze the episode, always or usually we make some quick fire run of questions. So let's start. What's the app that you use the mostly in a daily basis besides WhatsApp?
It's called Notion. Notion.
Okay.
I think I love it. It's great for to kind of like organize your life and organize products. I love it. It's very useful.
Okay. A book or podcast that has inspired you recently?
The Diary of a CEO from Steve Bartlett.
Great.
Are you an early bird or a night owl?
Early bird. Early bird. I mean, early bird for sure.
One habit that you live without to disconnect and recharge energy?
I think I aligned that early bird because I have my son, he's 14. I mean, if he's 15, he loves running. He's into the running.
Okay.
And I think
Nice.
I love running with him. Here's his life and 14 years old. It's interesting and fascinating.
And if you could go back to your 20s and you can give us an advice, what will be this advice?
I think, which I mentioned throughout the conversation, betting on compounding skills, meaning that skills that I know I might not need it at that point, but I know I will use later in life. I think I would love to be more writing about stuff that I wanted with purpose. And this one is a tough one. Seek hard feedback, because sometimes when we receive hard feedback, people take it personally. And I think I learned in these days, the hard feedback has been very helpful for me in order to be better, even at this point of my life. Plus, I would say investing in relationships as the return beat.
Okay. Thank you so much, Carlos. And thank a lot for to share the experience and to share with us your life today with us. Thank you so much. We will do the best in the future. For sure, I don't have any doubt. Good luck, Carlos.
No, thank you. So it's been a fantastic experience. I follow you guys now, looking at what you're doing in your careers, and it's fun. And I think this initiative, keep going at it. It will go far on my part. I love it. I think it's very dynamic because it's real. It's not about a specific script that you're following. I think it's natural, and I think in payment, that's something that I don't see anywhere, and it's fun because they are around some podcasts. They're very interested, not taking that away. But I think people, especially, I think I love the fact that you conducted this with someone who is looking for the next step of their career. And there's a lot of people there that would love to share about what they're doing, but not from an emotional standpoint. I think this is more for about sharing the real me, so I love it. Well done. Keep it up.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, Carla. Thank you for your time. Thank you for sharing with us your story, your journey. Someone from Barcelona reaching a senior position, management position in Santander, definitely has a lot of things to you teach us how to put the consumer in the center, to develop products with passion, with innovation, and being on the top. So thank you so much.
My pleasure. I'm sure we talk soon. Take care.
It is always a side B in all experience.
Yeah.
Fantastic.
Thank you.
Ciao, ciao.
Ciao.
Thank
Feliz
you
día.
so much.
Bye.